Yourself, Seth?
Thumbs up.
He's recording.
All right, I'll call the May 2nd DRB meeting to order. First is agenda changes. I know of none. All right, if the board members can review the minutes of April 4th. I just had one thing. I don't see it on here. You should have something on here when I came back to the board. Is there anything?
Well, it would just been after the Newton application, so, at the beginning of other business, wouldn't it be?
Mm-hmm. I would think.
I guess I had noticed under the Newton, in multiple places it referred to Place Road East and Place Road West. East is completely, that's on the other side. So we're talking about Place Road West new and Place Road West old, right? Is the change of the end of that road. It's all Place Road West.
It's all Place Road West, and I will tell you that I was actually showing a few people, just mentioned it, that I found in the January 14th, 2002 Select Board meeting minutes, that it is, it kind of confirms that, yes, Place Road West did switch from where it was to its new location.
Okay, and then, even though it's got nothing to do with the meeting minutes.
I'm sorry.
The,
You know
that strip,
something?
that-
Actually, you're right. Everything is Place Road West. This should be
Okay,
mentioned.
okay, so the suggestion I
Sorry.
would say would be just anywhere that you refer to Place Road East, just call it like Old Place Road West or something like that.
Good idea, because I was confused.
Well, Dennis, has Place Road always had an east and a west, or at one point was there a double-lane paved highway over something that got wiped out by a natural event,
No, you never could go through.
legally or
Right.
officially?
If you had four-wheel drive, you could go through.
So to supplement that East Road, the Place Road East discussion on page 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth paragraph down, I was asking about access to that secondary or that minor driveway. And so I think that just needs to be clarified that really it was about that southern driveway, not the east end of the driveway.
Yeah, so it showed up in what, 5 or 6 different places, so.
Yeah.
No worries. I guess that was all I had about for the minutes.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll abstain, I wasn't present.
All right, well, I'm gonna recuse myself.
So, Ted, you were not present?
Yeah, I'm gonna just
Are you
state-
participating in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to state for the record, I've reviewed the materials,
Okay.
both minutes and video, so I think I'm up to speed to participate, add to the, what, 5, yeah.
I know, I have the same comment.
Sorry.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna pick up a continuation of the discussion, the variance conditional use and site plan for cottage industry for David and Kathy Newton. I guess looking through the staff write-up for this week, looks like you did a fairly detailed job of calling out each of the various
Granted,
elements
it's-
that affect the decision.
Granted, it's not the general practice, but in this particular case, I thought it was appropriate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say also that I had read the lawyer's opinion, which was also in our packet, assuming everybody got it this time. And I thought it was interesting that they made the same mistake about the lot acreage, calling it basically a 2.67 instead of that being the actual. So they thought it was a 2.67 acre
They-
lot instead of that
I
being
think they
the
were trying to,
variance
right, I
area.
think they were trying to say that it was oddly worded in a sense, probably.
Yeah,
I think
so-
they understood that they were trying to reduce the 3 acres by 2.67, which,
Oh,
just keep in mind that there was a boundary adjustment later on that added .24. So at the time in 1997, the actual lot size was .33 acres, where today it's .57 acres.
Yeah.
And I'll just say officially for the record, forgive my exuberance and excitement for finding it, that I did find in the January 14th, 2002 Select Board minutes that they did actually motion and do the whole property transfer. What you see in terms of the property that is around the Newton's business property is a 3.8 acre residential property, which in 1997 they did not own, which they now currently own. And please correct me if that's not correct.
And so from the tax map was actually incorrect, showing that a little sliver as a separate property boundary line.
The tax map, I mean, this is probably one of the biggest gross errors in the tax map, I think, in the tax map. But yes, that is incorrect.
Okay. So I guess if they, I mean, looking through the staff comments, I thought everything was summed up. I guess I would say as far as like whether the legal opinion of whether or not the variance was transferable or not, me personally, even not having read that, I would have felt that any variance would have, since this is a new use, a new model, that I would have thought that any variances required would have needed to stand on their own anyway. So, you know, I really have no problem with the lawyer saying that it wasn't transferable in the first place. And also looking at your comments, I think summed up pretty clearly that, you know, I think this is a variance. A variable, a variance capable.
It's yes, and I think a worthy discussion.
Yep. So I don't know if board members want to add any thoughts to what staff has already provided. I don't know that we necessarily need to read it all into the
Well,
record.
I haven't done too many of these, but my understanding is the way that we do them is we vote on the 5 criteria, and we have to find as majority of the board that each of the 5 criteria is met.
Everyone has to be met.
Right. So we at least should go through each of the criteria,
Okay.
and you don't have to read all the information that has been provided, but I think we have to vote in the affirmative for each of the 5. Yep.
Before we do that, I'd like to state why I am going to vote for the variance, although technically under the law, I do not believe a variance is authorized. Condition 2, I think clearly under Supreme Court authority cannot be met. Condition, what is it? Variance requirement 2 under the statute. Got the wrong staff report here.
It's on page 3 of the, yeah.
I got it. Well, I'll just read a Supreme Court opinion and talk about. Condition 2 requires us to find that because of such physical circumstances or conditions, there is no possibility that the property can be developed in strict conformity with the provisions of the zoning regulation, and that the authorization of a variance is therefore necessary to enable the reasonable use of the property. Mitch, in the staff report, suggests that, Mitch, rather than putting words in your mouth, can you explain how you believe in these circumstances that criterion is met?
Well, I give 3 reasons. In criterion 1, there's, basically I go through this whole thing as far as explaining how it really would not be possible for increasing the size of the property.
I agree with that, and when I had raised this issue about adjoining land last time, I had not received, and I still have not received, that packet.
Really?
Yeah, like the letters to the Corinthians, they've been lost in the mail, I guess.
I hope you got the staff report, though, ahead of time.
No, I didn't get anything ahead of time.
This one?
I mean, from
But-
the email.
This
from the
one-
email.
No, I have it now. I'm just saying,
Okay.
when I raised this issue last time about adjoining land, I did not appreciate that the Newtons the adjoining land was their residence. I
It's
thought
actually
possibly,
it's actually not their residence, it's actually a property they own, but what is it, you rent it out?
but it has a residence on it.
It has a residence
That can't
on
be
it.
subdivided
Right.
or.
Right.
Right.
So I didn't appreciate that at the time, and I recognize that's no longer an issue. So,
You know, so basically, even if they added the 0.8 acres, you can't create another nonconformity, you don't come into that. Much of the property as it is disturbed ground that would basically limit the opportunity for septic systems and other types of things that would be there for a residence if they want to try to turn it into a residence. The fact that there were other variances, basically, the prior town approvals, which encouraged this type of development that they have now.
and I think that's exactly what I'm gonna rely on, although, to my mind, it's not a very sufficient legally justification. The long and the short of it is, the property not only can be developed, it has been developed. There's an existing ongoing enterprise that's been there for 50 years.
Yes.
And under the Vermont Supreme Court case law, that scotches a variance. However, given the very, and I'm talking mostly about a 35-year-old case involving the property we all know in Shelburne with the Gadju, or the Marcotte Appliance Center.
Oh, yeah.
That created an opinion that basically says when you have an ongoing business, you can't get a variance because it's already developed. Having said that, I am still going to approve of, I'm going to vote for a variance here because of the history of this. This enterprise predated our zoning regulations. There were some funky variances that were given in the past, and this application is actually, as Mitch pointed out in his report, reducing significantly the non-conformance or non-compliance, so that we only need to grant one variance instead of re-endorsing the 4 or 5 variances that this board gave 20 years ago. So I'm going to wink and a nod at our statute. This is the first time I think I've done it. This is why we don't see many variance applications anymore, because I think staff recognizes the statutes are very narrowly circumscribed and talk people out of applying for them, but the equities here favor it, in my estimation.
And generally, that's the advice that's given through most communities, that it's supposed to be very difficult to get.
If there were a neighboring landowner who chose to appeal, I think this might well be lost in the Supreme Court. But I don't have the sense that's going to happen.
Unless you're going to sue yourself.
Especially since, I mean, the applicants.
We have a letter from some neighboring
Yeah,
landowners.
I think he went to practically all the neighbors too. Well, you could talk about that.
So I wish you the best. It's a difficult situation, and I congratulate Mitch and Alex for trying to work you through it as best they could. It's still a challenging legal issue, and I hope you skate by.
So just just to discuss this a little bit more, what you're saying is there's an existing business there, therefore, and I guess that existing business would be grandfathered because it predated zoning?
No, because we're not dealing with a prior non-conforming use or non-conforming structure. They're still asking for a variance, and the grandfathering doesn't play into that aspect of it.
Okay,
And just to dilate a little bit more on variances, there are a lot of Supreme Court cases that talk about, okay, we want to expand this business a little bit, whether the property can be developed. Yes, there's an existing business there or an existing residence, but we want to knock down the gas station that's there in residential Brattleboro and expand it a bit. And they say, well, the Supreme Court has consistently said, just because it's better for business or not too big a deal, those don't render the property undevelopable. And don't mean, I mean, the statute talks about the landowner still has to be able to make a reasonable use of the property.
right.
And if there's an existing business there that's ongoing and seemingly profitable, and has been for 50 years, it's hard to say you can't make reasonable use of the property, just continuing it as it is, as
I see.
opposed to expanding it.
Oh, okay.
What's kind of interesting in this situation, and please chime in if I'm not getting this right, that your business basically changed because of the market, in essence, where you were kind of in between a contractor's yard and a cottage industry before, and now really what you're doing is a cottage industry in that sense because of the market.
I don't think cottage industry existed when,
It did not.
until fairly
It did not?
recently, right,
Right.
right. So it's a new,
We were
That's
recommended
interesting.
to
Yeah.
apply as a
Yeah.
contractor's yard.
yeah, because that's the only
We were
thing,
the first ones to do
it's
it.
the only thing existed that, for
Yeah.
covering that, right?
Can I just add one piece of advice from my perspective? I think we're maximizing the use of the property. And 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, if you or another generation of your family wants to expand this business, you may have to think about moving elsewhere. Because these zoning regulations are only so flexible, and you're in a visible spot, it's constrained property. So that has to be a thought going forward.
To pick up on that, we're talking about the variance review right now, which is the bullet point number 2, and then the conditional use review has the clause of whether it, I forget the exact terminology there, but it carries through, right? Is that the conditional use review?
Well, they're getting a complete review on all these.
Right,
Yeah.
right, but I guess the
about
variance
character.
is not
Yes.
contingent on that, on those aspects that I
No,
want to
they're
get
not
my.
interrelated.
Nope.
Right, okay,
Nope.
that's what,
Right.
I think that would be the other commentary is that
I
on the
think-
They
conditional
still
use
have to
review.
meet performance standards and so forth.
Right,
Yeah.
I think the idea, I mean.
I don't wanna
this
mix
hearing's
it.
kind of going is, see if they can get through the variance.
Gotcha.
Then start looking at the
Okay,
conditional use
yeah.
and so forth.
So is that site plan?
Yes, they'll have to go through, well, there'll be a conditional site plan review.
Yeah, we got conditional use and site plan to talk about it.
Yep, so,
Okay.
Before we're done.
so variances for one thing, which is,
Just the
Acreage.
lot size? Lot size?
Yeah, that's it. Because some of these setback distances and so forth, they're in the home.
Contractors.
In the.
Contractor yard.
Oh,
home
they go-
occupation,
they go
but
away.
not
Got
in
it.
the
Yep.
cottage industry.
Okay,
Okay, so that was variance condition number 2. As long as we've discussed it sufficiently, I guess we should take a vote. I would agree.
I think we need to go through each one, Dick.
yep,
Oh, we don't check them off
Yeah.
one at a time?
yeah, one at a time,
Take a vote on each one.
yep.
Okay. That's what I meant to do, was take a vote on number 2.
Oh, sure, start with number 2?
Yeah,
Okay.
since we've already discussed it, so I would like to basically just vote on number 2.
Right, well,
Agree, disagree.
Agree.
I would agree.
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 All right. So that one passes. So let's go back to condition 1, which is.
Which number 2 is kind of dependent on.
Yeah, so we already kind of discussed it, that there are unique physical circumstances or conditions, including irregularities, narrowness, or shallowness of lot size or shape, or exceptional topographical or other physical conditions peculiar to the particular property, that unnecessary hardship is due to these conditions and not the circumstances or conditions generally created by the provisions of the bylaw in the neighborhood or district and the property it is located.
I vote yes.
So yes, again, everybody's read through the reasons that have been given, which I would tend to agree with.
Yep.
So I'm gonna take a
Affirmative.
vote.
Agree.
Agreed.
All right. All right, number 3 is that unnecessary hardship has not been created by the appellant. Agreed.
Agreed.
Agree.
Agree.
Pre-existing lot.
All right. Number 4, the variance, if authorized, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or district in which the property is located substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent property, reduce access to renewable energy resources, or be detrimental to the public welfare.
Agreed.
I think the answer is no.
Agree.
Agree.
Agreed. And The last and final is the variance, if authorized, will represent the minimum variance that will afford relief and will represent the least deviation possible from the bylaw and from the plan. Agreed.
Agreed.
Agree.
Agreed. All right. So I think that qualifies for a variance, specifically for the acreage. So then conditional use review. I guess you gave a pretty good section on cottage industry review and all the different points that make up that, and it seems like everything qualifies as described.
One clarification, it was in the meeting notes, but I think it's important just to add that in, as section 5.2.4, is that the hours of operation are weekdays only.
Okay.
Actually, it's good you mentioned that. I'll make sure I'll put that in the decision.
Yep.
So does that mean my neighbors can't mow the lawn on the weekend, or it's only me?
No, they can't.
As long as you're not cutting stone, right?
Well, can I mow the lawn on the weekend? 'Cause that's the only time I got.
I don't think that's in the condition, in the cottage industry description, right? So-
I think you're good.
All right, so the conditional use review, I guess there was seven different items. The capacity of existing or planned community facilities. It just says no adverse effect. Yeah, there's no community facilities on that, in that area.
Right.
The character of the area affected and the essential character of the neighborhood or district in which the property, and the comment is basically it's a barn, it's been there, and it pretty much fits in with the area, which I would agree. Traffic on the roads and highways in the vicinities is no adverse effect, given it's right on 116. Seems like the best place. The town plan and bylaws in effect. It says no adverse effect on that there. Utilization of renewable energy resources. This conditional use would have no effect on the ability to do renewable energy, I guess. Appropriate use or development of adjacent property. Also stated as no effect there. And public welfare and any other matter is also no effect. So I think all 7 of those are reasonable.
I like my good comments for the site plan review.
So is this a motion then to, conditional use review is separate, right? So do we need a motion to approve the conditional use as a cottage industry for stone cutting?
I mean, usually don't you do the conditional use site plan as one?
Oh, we can? Okay.
I
That'd be
mean, it
fine.
ends up being one decision
Okay,
as far as the condition, I mean, historically.
It's gonna be one decision whether we process it tonight as 2 or not.
okay.
So I have two items that, I've mentioned concern about the dual access on State Highway 116, and I'm inclined to take staff comments to express that they don't see any major concern with that. And I think I'm comfortable with that, given the limited traffic generation of the proposed, or of the current uses and the proposed uses of the site that's documented here. So just stating that for the other members of the board here, that I think if the traffic generation were in excess of what's being identified here, I think that would be something I would push harder for to close off that secondary access. But I see that snow storage and other benefits accrue by keeping it open.
Can you put up the site plan? Because actually I've driven by and taken a lot of looks, and it does, I know I didn't, on the site plan, if you're planning on reclaiming part of that driveway for less, because it does look pretty used, that second driveway.
Which one you call
This-
it?
The
Southern one?
The southern one.
Yeah, Sarah, I will agree that, from my drive-bys on the rainy weather, as you can see, there's an activity going into the site.
And not just into
Not the residential.
Not just
right.
into the residence, but it definitely, I mean,
Yeah.
and I didn't know if that was part of the site plan. Were you planning on reclaiming some of that to,
So right where the shadow of the tree.
yeah, to grass, to, offset some of the impervious surface, or are we just which is fine if that's not what's proposed, but I did think it's it looks like a second ingress egress to the site. Which if that's what's proposed, and that's fine, but I don't think we should think differently.
So, I mean, just to be clear, the access to 116 has to stay, because it is a private residence.
Exactly.
Right.
But if it's
This point here is the access to this driveway, to this residence, so that needs to be maintained. This needs to be maintained.
Yes.
And at the
There-
previous meeting, I had discussed a suggestion to close this off with either, a chain or something to prevent other users.
I don't
but-
necessarily think that's necessary, but if that's how people were hoping to offset some impervious surface, it's not just seldom used, it looks pretty used.
But it's also critical to push the snow over
All
to the
snow
lower
from
left
the back of
corner.
that building
Mhm.
goes over on to where it says snow storage. I have to have that open to get through there. I just regraded Marjorie's driveway, and it is that recycled asphalt that is like glass, doesn't leave tire tracks in it, so. And the rest of that driveway is Shelburne limestone, which the minute it rains, it's soft in these tracks.
Yeah, no, I
No,
couldn't
no.
see tracks. I mean, I just could see that it wasn't like
Yeah.
a little bit of a driveway, like with, that
Well, no,
doesn't
it isn't a
look.
little bit.
Yeah, it's a-
There's not a
it's-
lot of lawn.
No,
And
no,
I
that's,
have, around that tree, we push snow, and I tear up the grass. There's
Yeah.
no grass.
no, so
If we looked at
definitely,
this in, like, July, there's all lawn, and her driveway goes up through there. And sometimes there's a grass strip down her driveway.
does
And the
not,
lawn encroaches
does
in on the
not look
driveway.
like that right now, but.
It's not now, no, Uncle Ian, it's not.
But I mean, it's not, it doesn't mean it can't be the way it is. I just wanted, we had talked a lot about it, and that
Yeah.
it would be maybe lawn, or maybe less impervious surface, or it's not, it doesn't look like it's used often. It does look like another driveway into the site, which is, if that's the way that it is, and everybody's okay with that being
So,
that way,
so
then.
I understood from the minutes and everything that the main access to the site is up on top, right up there, right?
The north
Yeah.
end, yeah.
Right. So how much is the lower, the southern access used per?
Not, I mean, sometimes people drive around the building to go out. Most
Yeah.
people come in the north entrance because they see the sign and
Right.
then they drive in.
Right,
But sometimes they're headed and they go out around the building. When they come to get trash, if we're working on that side, they back in off of 116 to get the trash, which is once a week.
yeah. Oh, is that out back?
That's out back.
They don't come through the yard from the
They
top?
come both ways. Right where that arrow was a minute ago was the dumpster.
Wait, actually. Yeah, just quite on here.
Right
I
there.
think you said around here,
Right
right?
there.
Right here is the dumpster.
That's it, right there, you see it, yeah.
You said that was a half-yard dumpster.
Yep.
That's what you told me.
Yep.
Which is like only a little bit bigger than a typical residential dumpster.
Yeah, it's not real big. You really gotta look to see it. It just
It's tucked in behind.
kind of tucked in behind there.
So I guess you can ask them to come in the other way, or tell them to go in the other way.
I can, yeah.
Just, if it's gonna help, limit the impact of that other access.
Sometimes when we're loading stuff in the shop, we drive out that driveway, because my guys don't like to back up.
Yeah,
And they don't like to use the mirrors to back up, and they hit things. So it's easier to drive out.
Yeah, it's just, I think it is used, is
Yeah.
all I
Oh, I
wanted to
agree,
say.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But like
thought-
when the help comes in the morning, they all drive in that other driveway and park.
So Mitch, in one of your comments somewhere, you talked about potentially reclaiming some area with some some grass. What area in particular were you thinking of?
Well, actually, you look at the width of this parking area and the length of the parking area that happens to be here. I mean, you could possibly reclaim an area like maybe in here or something out in here to kind of more formalize it as a parking lot. That was just some suggestions.
Well, what you choose for storage for materials along that back too, isn't it? Or how's that?
Well,
Where you see that red truck and all along those edges is where I store material.
Yeah, yeah.
And along that other side, it's a sheer ledge that goes up. We have a fabricating area there, a totally flat concrete area, that we build stone walls, because we cut them all and then fit them right there, then mark them, and then they get shipped.
Is there a specific coverage requirement that,
they are beyond the typical, it's an pre-existing, non-conforming condition where they are beyond the allowable lot coverage. So if they were adding more
For
impervious.
impervious.
Right. For impervious surfaces.
We're actually not, isn't driveway considered impervious though, isn't?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're not really changing that, we're just covering part of it.
You got it.
Okay.
That's why I think the previous meeting, I think we covered this
Right.
at length, didn't we? Where we actually said there was going to be a net reduction in impervious, although minor.
Actually, I don't think we said net reduction.
All right. Or there would be a zero change.
There would be,
Zero
there
change.
wouldn't be a change because, well,
Driveway is going.
Driveway's impervious.
exactly, as Ted said. You're basically taking the addition, which would be in this particular area here, you're putting an impervious surface on an impervious surface. One possibility, and again, I'm just throwing this out as ideas, is perhaps the area, if this is once built, if this is too narrow for use, this could be reclaimed as,
That is, it's not gonna be for driving, it's gonna be lawn right up to the building.
so, and the building's not going out to here, it's only
No.
going out to about
12
here.
feet out from the building, which is less than the distance where that red truck is.
So,
It's actually
So
this
this
side of
area-
that tree.
so this area over here,
Be more
that I'm
grass?
kind of, that
It's gonna be
I'm,
more grass.
that is gonna be reclaimed as grass.
Well, it's gonna be crushed stone,
Yeah, that'll be way.
it'll be crushed stone where the drip
site-wise.
line is of the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's gonna be
Grass
lawn.
from there,
Oh.
okay.
I can mow right across there.
Yeah, that'll
There's
look
not gonna be
really nice.
parking there.
That'll
Sounds
look
good.
really nice. I think that'll do a lot for the site, for
And I
visibility
think
of
too-
116.
if you're concerned about that, the bottom driveway being too wide, I think it is a matter of people have just driven on that lawn and it just kept getting a little, the driveway kept getting a little wider and a
Yeah,
little
that's
wider.
what- it
could
did
be
look-
It could be grassed out further.
I think that would do a lot if you took grass right up to the building besides the drip line and narrowed that drive into the site.
Yeah.
That would do
The
a
southern
lot.
Just
driveway.
make it more well-defined, I
Mhm.
guess,
Yeah.
yeah.
And no one's gonna be taking that corner anymore.
No,
Right,
Right, because they won't be parking there. so.
so nobody's gonna be parking there.
right.
I think that, I
Okay.
think that would look really good.
So as a cottage industry versus a contractor's yard, will storing materials outside, that's no longer allowed as a cottage industry,
It's
right?
not actually allowed either which way.
Oh, I thought as a contractor's yard, it was expected that materials would be stored.
Well, actually, I'm misspeaking here. You're allowed to store on either one materials outside, but they have to be screened.
Okay,
And we said we're doing that with the stone
With the-
wall
the
that's
building and
being
the-
built along the
Yeah.
front, right? Yeah.
okay.
Replacement tree at the corner.
Yeah, 'cause
Because
you-
he has to move one.
Yep, yep, yep.
The other item that I had discussed last time was the concern about the sewer. And I understand the current arrangement that you have. And I think there was a comment that we had where a cottage industry could be transferable. But I would like to throw out that in this case, given the unique situation without on-site wastewater, that the use would not be transferable and would require a new application for subsequent owners.
Or not transferable unless they demonstrate,
Adequacy of wastewater.
yeah, yeah.
Some on-site capability, I guess. I don't.
Well, it can even be, I think it can even be a formal arrangement to use the, if you're gonna sell, it's one thing if you own both things and you say.
Right,
the
that's
bathroom's
what I'm
over
worried
there.
about.
But if you sell it to somebody else, it can be a permanent arrangement to still use facilities across the way, but anyways, you gotta just demonstrate, sanitary, facility, septic,
So
bathroom facilities, if it's gonna be separately owned.
it would be possible, though, to also have easements to use the, septic or wastewater on
Yeah,
the
that's-
house site, right?
Yeah, that-
Which would have to be something as, if you sold that property to another owner, somebody totally different, then as part of that property sale would have to be some sort of easement if they were actually going to use your well, your septic or whatever, without actually going into the home. But I think that can be a condition, that something has to be, it's not automatically transferable, and something has to be, even if it probably means coming back to the DRB to discuss it, I suppose. Yeah, there has to be a plan for that if ownership ever goes into separate ownership.
Yeah, so that seems to be the only issue in the site plan review. We've agreed on a tree, right, where one's being replaced, I guess. And, or,
The stone walls and that, so the cedar hedge was in question, right, where it's showing cedar hedge?
The cedar hedge
It's
It's
now a
pure
stone
ledge.
wall. Yeah,
is pure ledge right there. There now is it's probably 8-9 foot stone wall there now.
he's built a stone wall since our last meeting.
Okay.
We got bored. So. It's just,
That's
the
a
cedar's not gonna grow
some people
there.
watch television,
Okay.
other people make, stone walls.
Yeah, they look good.
It
Yeah,
looks
they
a lot
do.
nicer than cedar stuck there.
Okay. So that's been changed to a stone wall. Yes, that's good.
There was already one there. It was like 3 or 4 feet tall,
Wait,
and we went up more.
I like it. It's in keeping with the land use.
yeah,
Yeah.
very good, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
And the drainage, there's no real change, it still drains under 116. We're not increasing, actually, we're potentially decreasing slightly the impervious surface.
I don't know if I actually wrote this in on it, but they happen to be in a local high spot along 116.
That was in here somewhere, yeah.
a local
So-
high spot, you said?
A local high area
Yes.
on 116. So everything
hot
drains.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It used to be a hot spot there.
High, H-I-G-H spot. You got that in the minutes, I hope.
Yeah.
Nice.
So everything drains away from it and actually not getting anything draining onto it, so.
Yeah, I can believe that.
And there's been no concerns about, like sand or, draining off and filling up wherever the water ends up going, because given the amount of impervious surface, I assume it takes a fair amount of the dust and sand, and
It's all stone that's there.
so it doesn't
There's
really
no
move.
dust.
Where does it go, where is the culvert under 116 exactly?
Right about where that car is.
There's one right
Right
here.
there.
Right
And then
there.
And
there's,
then up on, by the snow storage. Yep.
right,
To the left of the snow is another one. And then in front of the tree beside the road is the third one.
right around
No,
here.
no, the other tree
Back
on the
over
north end.
Oh,
Between
I
the
forgot
two
about that
cars.
one. Yeah,
Up,
by
up,
the car driving by,
The car driving
left,
by.
left,
Oh,
Right,
oh, that's
right out
right.
near the road.
You
by
mean
the
around
tree.
here?
down,
Down.
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 Right there.
There.
Okay.
There's another one there.
So there's a
Concrete-
culvert that goes underneath 116 there?
Somewhere, yeah.
And just
Well,
sheet
these-
flows off on the neighboring property?
What's that?
It just sheet flows
It's been there for
across on
years. The
west
state
side?
did it when they built the road.
When they built
right?
116, they put all those in. They put 3 catch basins across.
And where do they go on the other side? Where do they end up on the
Oh,
other side?
about where that arrow or not arrow, where that boundary is, where Vic's
Yeah,
land is, about
Yeah.
right there it comes out.
over to the right.
Right about where the hand was.
Right here?
Oh,
No,
The corner.
Right there.
it ends up going way over there?
way
Oh.
over there.
Oh,
Oh,
it's all underground to that
It's all
point.
underground.
oh,
All concrete,
oh,
whatever they made out of.
I see.
Okay.
I've seen the end of it, and it looks like a pretty good sized pipe to me.
Yeah.
So that's where they all discharge to?
Yeah.
Everything comes
Oh,
together?
Yeah, yeah.
That was major reconstruction when they did that.
Okay.
Okay. We're not
It
changing
just
that.
never plugged up, so I don't,
Yeah, so they did it right.
yeah. I have cleaned out the catch basins, but there's been more sticks and trash that blows in there when the wind blows
Mhm.
than residue.
So I think I can open and close the public hearing in a single breath, since there's no public here to add any further comments. So I
Can I
think
ask
we.
one more question?
Go ahead.
Is there lawn see where the top car is going north? Is there lawn between the two driveways there too?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it looks like there's a telephone pole there.
Yeah, telephone and a lot of wires underground.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just gonna tell you a cautionary tale. I was talking about this 35-year-old Vermont Supreme Court case involving Marcotte and Shelburne.
They were at my house today.
He got approval from the zoning board of adjustment and from the Vermont Superior Court. And while the case was on appeal, he built this non-complying structure that the Vermont Supreme Court then said was illegal. So I don't know whatever happened with that, but
Wow.
don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Well, they're gonna need two zoning permits, one for the use after this, as well as for the building, so. They've got that one step that's there, so you know to do that, which will be in the decision as well.
So I would move to direct staff to draft conditions of approval for conditional use and site plan for
And
this,
variance.
for this cottage industry and variance.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Great,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Glad we could
I
make it
thought you were
happen.
just gonna make the decision.
The minutes should reflect that Dennis is rejoining the board, I believe. Can you get by?
It's gonna take back over.
Thank you very much.
All right.
So was it, it's 45 days and,
That would
to have the
be
decision
June
like done?
16th. June 16th, it has to be,
Well,
but
that's the last
I will have that, I should be able
Our
to have
next
that to you
meeting.
in the next meeting.
Okay.
So when can we start building?
When the appeal period expires after we issue our decision, which is, what, 30 or 14?
There's 30 days on
30
that,
days.
but you also have to get a building permit, but I'll talk to you more about
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
it. This was the hard part.
yeah.
This is the highlight.
This was.
Hard.
Hard.
Yeah.
As opposed to the hard part, this is the hard part.
Thanks, good to see you.
This is how organized I am. I brought a job sheet for job instead of down.
All right, I'll move to other business.
All right, I have actually a bunch of things.
Oh, wow.
To mention. Let's see, there, an email, Alex sent you all an email about a planning and zoning workshop on June 14th in Fairleigh. I can never get that, I want to say Farley, Fairleigh. So just, I'm repeating that, and if you have an interest, he said in his email that, that a few people can be sent, so if you're interested, let us know. There actually are applications for the next few meetings. Spencer Keelman, they're coming in for a final subdivision on their 2 lots. And actually, I should say, I don't have this confirmed yet, but there's also going to be a sketch plan that they just have to give me a check. If they give it to me in the next couple of days, it's for a very interesting 2-lot subdivision on Partridge Hill. And there's a regulation as far as they're going to be doing it as a PUD, because there is a regulation that when you have private roads, that you have to have sufficient acreage on each side of it, and it's actually impossible in this situation. But they want to provide some benefits, which they'll discuss at the meeting, in order to try to get that approval. On the 6th, the Norris subdivision is coming in to renew their conditional use for working in the flood hazard. I have that scheduled. The key there is that, well, one, it just went more than 2 years. And they're also looking to make a change in one of the requirements on the decision regarding the sidewalk. They have an issue with, since they're no longer in control of the actual construction, they're going to be asking to see if they could modify that particular portion of it as far as how many units they could build without the sidewalk being completed.
Was it the actual sidewalk through town we were talking about, or that it was, I thought we were talking about just their little
Yeah, I thought
connector?
that,
All right,
yeah.
there's two different things. There's the conditional use, which is for the sidewalk connector and the bridge and all of that. They've just simply, the project took longer than, to go through the rest of the permitting, then they thought they need to come in for the conditional use on that, to redo that one. And then separate from that, they're also looking to change one of the items on the prior decision regarding the sidewalk in town and this phasing of that.
Well, I guess I just.
I think our
can
phasing
remember
was
that.
only attached to his on-site sidewalk.
Because I mean,
We
he
should
had
look
to,
at
he
it.
had to have money set aside for the sidewalk through town, but obviously, I would be surprised if we said he had to have that completed, since he has absolutely no control over completing the sidewalk through town.
I think it says it the other way, but I'll
Okay.
I'll give you a staff report on that when we're ready on that. Want to let you know that, and also I'm expecting, it's funny, he gave me all the plans and such, but then they needed an easement information for, or I should say, road sharing, and that's Tucker, that's on Richmond Road. Was it Richmond Road or Pond Road? At that intersection.
Mhm.
So that I'm anticipating, if they can get that last little piece to me, if we can get that onto the.
Is that a
6th,
final
that'd be-
or something?
Hmm?
Is that a final?
That would be a final two-lot subdivision.
Yeah.
And somewhere in there, in one of those meetings, perhaps, there may be iPad training. There was another little snafu.
I thought we were gonna do that tonight. I told my wife, she's expecting me late. Maybe I should go out for a beer.
Now's your big chance. Yep, make
Except now
sense.
it's,
Now's on.
Anyway,
now's
he's
the
already.
broadcast.
Yeah, but it's
Um,
closed
She's not
too.
watching, I can assure you.
Restaurant's closed
oh, there.
tonight.
We're talking about possibly June 20th as a field trip meeting, being as long of a day that happens to be. And it happens that the first Tuesday in July is July 4th this year. So, I don't know what you-
Let's not meet July 4th.
I don't know if you want to, well, it's something, that just want to bring it to your attention, is something that you're going to have to make a decision on.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
We've never met on July 4th before.
I don't think you're
now.
meant as far as either canceling it or moving it,
Right.
whether you want to cancel it or move it.
Well, it all depends what the application.
busy we are, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, that's what depends.
And I think coming into like the meeting before, we'll probably have a good sense of that.
Yeah.
Because I do have 2 or 3 other things that are in the works. One that was, actually, I was talking to, let's find the name, just popped out of my mind, Tebow and, well, Hanlon, Sherry Hanlon came in, and they may not be doing their subdivision, they may be instead actually doing what will end up being a re-subdivision of the, with Tebow, and I'm forgetting the names.
I'm not
Oak
ready.
and Quackenbush.
Oh,
Okay,
whole
you're
crap,
on
whole
Baldwin
It would
Road
be-
again.
it would actually be a re-subdivision of that,
Huh.
if they end up doing.
We spent
it.
too much time on that. probably.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on that. We can spend some more, though.
And, let's see, yeah, that's the main thing I want to let you know, that yes, a bunch of things are coming in.
Alright.
So if people come in, it's 2 months away yet, but if people start coming in so if we're gonna do a June 20th field trip, that wouldn't be applicants that meeting. And then if we didn't do July 4th, that would be no applicants that meeting. So there starts to be a pretty large gap
Yeah.
between the meetings we would do in, the first meeting in June and when we would have a meeting in July. So I wouldn't,
July 5th would always be an option.
yeah, I'm gone the whole week that
Well,
week.
I mean,
because-
we could do like the 4th
But-
week of June too, right? It would be a
Yeah.
non-standard.
Yeah, we could, right.
Exactly, there are
Yeah,
different
so-
options.
So if people start, you know, backing up.
Because the other thing that oftentimes comes into play is when you have that type of a backlog, and then you have a bunch of decisions to make.
Yeah,
Then-
yeah,
then
you start running the 45 days, right?
Exactly.
Yep,
Possibly that hasn't been our problem for the last
right.
year.
Yeah, and Tucker has gotten their water allocation. NRG and BSAR, Giroux have made applications that haven't been acted upon yet. BSAR Giroux wouldn't be acted upon until July anyway, because there isn't enough water available for them. But NRG might get some allocation
For
soon.
business, for businesses,
For
for
business
commercial.
only, exactly.
Hmm.
And then come back here for a site plan application.
Mhm.
So do we know, Mitch, do you know when all those Hannaford applications were argued in the Vermont Supreme Court?
I really haven't been following that. I know that they have, I know it's still an ongoing
I think
process.
they have been argued.
They have been argued. I
they're
watched it
waiting.
on YouTube.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm. You
Wow.
can watch it on YouTube, the hour-long.
How long ago?
It was early April.
So are they on their last
Or
appeal
end of
now?
March.
Oh, so just recently?
It wasn't that long ago.
Oh, so
But-
that could still be another year.
But they've issued all
Probably
kinds
won't
of
be.
decisions around it.
Who has, the Supreme
The
Court?
Supreme Court. So you never know.
Oh.
Well, as the
On the
zoning
ancillary
administrator has
ones?
30 days. and you
No,
have
not on the
45.
Hannaford, but on the previous, because they took a whole bunch of hearings that same day, and they've already
Oh.
issued decisions. But obviously,
Oh.
it
But
depends on
after
how
this
com-
decision,
how
it can't be
complex.
appealed again, right? Is
Say
that,
again?
after this decision, was that the last appeal?
Supreme Court's the end of the appeals court?
It should-
Yeah,
It's-
except I think there's a very significant possibility they could remand it to the
Oh,
Superior Court.
just send it
for more
back down,
hearings.
you
Yeah.
know, with
Oh,
there's-
with
Yeah,
advice.
I'm not sure that's gonna be.
There was a lot of toing and froing.
There would not be further appeal to the US Supreme Court. So it could go back to Superior Court.
They even threatened going back to the DRB.
Ah,
Well, it's
Anybody
quite a
can
different
watch it
DRB
for
than
that.
it was.
You can watch it for a good show.
it's on YouTube, huh? That's
Yeah.
funny.
Well, as you have 45 days and the zoning administrator only has 30 days to make decisions, the justices don't have any time limits.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting.
That's why they're paid the high bucks with life tenure.
Yeah.
All right, well, I move to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I think they haven't, I was just looking.
All right, 1:05, my goodness.
I'm,